The frustration is obvious right now, and now you've got to channel that into work that gets this passing offense unlocked. We're 3 games into the year, and Justin hasn't reached 300 passing yards for the season. That's stunning in the 2022 version of the NFL. And so I think a lot of this comes down to seeing the right things before the snap, identifying things immediately after the snap, and then reacting quickly in a way that gets you some of those plays that then create a rhythm, right? The Bears have had 32 possessions this season. They've only had 4 in which they've completed multiple passes. That's another mind-blowing number that tells you that this passing offense hasn't gotten into a rhythm. I think once they find a rhythm, it should snowball, but they haven't found it yet.
And Fields talked about the fact that his connection with Darnell Mooney is not lost. It's still there, but we haven't seen it yet on the field and translate onto the field. They still won the game, so there is some positives to take away from that game as they get ready now for the Giants. But in your mind, where is that connection? Do you think it's something that it's more Justin, Darnell, defenses understanding that that was his guy?
Yeah, it may not be lost, but it's certainly missing, right? I mean, Darnell Mooney was a 1,000-yard receiver last year. He's got the potential to be a game changer for this offense, and it hasn't gotten going, just as the whole passing attack hasn't gotten going. And now the risk is you become so locked into trying to get Darnell Mooney involved that maybe you try to force some things. And Justin kind of revealed that there's been conversations where Darnell said, hey, listen, don't try to force this. It'll come naturally. We'll get into our groove eventually, and it'll all settle together. But right now, when you get into one of those ruts, it then introduces new things to think about, like, oh, how do I get my best receiver involved? And that can be dangerous at times.
The defensive coach that Matt Eberflus is still critical of his defense, said they need to get more sacks, and maybe the run defense isn't where it needs to be. Now they're going to go against the Giants team, who has a pretty good running back. Yeah. They're without one of their receivers in Sterling Shepard, who got injured last week. But what do they need to do well against the Giants so that they can get another victory?
Tackle. Again, for the second straight week, you've got to tackle Saquon Barkley. The Bears have seen him every single year of his career, and they understand how difficult it can be to get him on the ground. He's so shifty, so agile, so able to run through contact that you better have multiple guys surrounding Saquon Barkley and getting him down. He's the engine of the Giants offense right now. They're doing similar to the Bears, very little in the passing game, and so they're relying on their running back to carry them. And so the Bears have to say, hey, you're not going to be able to rely on them. We're going to shut them down. And Roquan Smith, with the 16 tackles he had last week to spearhead that defensive effort, that was a promising sign going into a game where you're going to need similar intensity.
Do you think the Bears defense can capitalize on the fact that the Giants offensive line struggled mightily against the Cowboys? Daniel Jones was pressured 24 times. Do you think this is an opportunity where we see a game with a little bit more sacks?
If you're Robert Quinn, if you're Travis Gibson, if you're Dom Robinson, if you're Al-Quadin Muhammad, you are looking at that video and going, wow, fellas, this is going to be an opportunity Sunday to get after a passer here. And the Bears have to be able to do that productively with a 4-man rush and turn it loose. The Giants present opportunities. That offensive line is a mess right now. Daniel Jones is competing his butt off, but he's getting pressured, as you mentioned, all the time. And so the Bears can change the game by creating a consistent 4-man rush. I think this is the week that they get it going.
And when you just look at this team as a whole, I know it's hard to feel like they came off a victory, but they did come off a victory against the Texans. What are you taking away? What do you think this team is good at doing and can do now to ensure? Because this is a very winnable game for them on Sunday.
There's no question, and you have to seize your winnable opportunities. And I asked Matt Eberflus that very question. In the month of September, what are you most proud of? What have you seen established here? And he said 2 things. Number one, he feels like they're adhering to the HITS principle. There's obviously room for growth there, but he thinks that message has gotten across. And number two, they are playing with a level of mental and physical toughness late in games that allows you to steal close victories when you are in a tight game down the stretch. And they did it against the 49ers. They did it against the Texans. And so if you have that level of toughness mentally and physically down the stretch, you can make that play that swings the result, that changes the entire next week. And so I think they're going to rely on that again Sunday in New York.
Another opportunity for sure. Thank you, Dan.
You got it.